Happening now, court is back in session for the sex crimes trial against Sean Diddy Combs. Right now, an ex-girlfriend using the alias of Jane is back on the stand after testifying Thursday about how she felt pressured to take part in Diddy's fantasies. She said that the sex sessions could last between 24 and 30 hours with no sleep. And she went on to say as a single mother, she came to depend on Diddy and felt an obligation because I knew he was paying my rent. Much of her testimony similar to another ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Meanwhile, the judge warning the hip-hop mogul about the faces and gestures he's making at the jury. The judge says that they caught Diddy vigorously nodding at a witness during their cross-examination, and after the warning, Diddy appeared to listen to the judge, according to those who were in the courtroom. Joining us now, entertainment attorney Tre Lovell. It sounds like a pretty serious threat from the judge to Diddy that if you don't knock it off, I'm going to toss you.
Yeah, it is a little bit surprising because, it's not unusual for defendants to react to witness testimony and to go to the extent where you think they're kind of, trying to intimidate the jury or persuade the jury. It's a big stretch, but the judge wants to make sure that, hey, we're neutral here. We don't want any type of inference. And thus, you need to keep your client quiet. But I was a little surprised. I thought it was a little bit of a stretch. But, this judge is keeping control of his courtroom.
Refresh everyone's memory on the charges here. And I think ultimately, Tre, it's connecting the dots between Diddy's lifestyle that has been portrayed in court and the allegations of crimes and also what he is charged with and what he could face if found guilty.
Marna, you are so right. That's really what they're dealing with. There's three charges. There's a sex trafficking charge. There's the racketeering conspiracy charge. And then there's their transportation to engage in prostitution charge. So there's those three charges. And the problems they have is they're trying to demonstrate to the jury there's this criminal enterprise that Diddy is operating. However, these are legitimate businesses. And they've got to create that distinction between the legitimacy of the businesses and him trying to usurp the power and use those for this criminal enterprise. And it's going to be a little bit of a challenge because you got to remember that these different criminal acts need to form a pattern. They can't be separate, they can't be one-offs, and they can't be unrelated. And so, the prosecution has a lot of challenges in this case.
So given that, what's the likelihood that the jury finds him guilty on some and not others? And what is the charge that they may lean into the prosecution's argument?
Well, for example, let's take the transportation to engage in prostitution. That is basically taking people from one state to another, and hiring them to do prostitution. Well, the evidence from that comes from the sex workers. So the question for the jury is, are they crossing bounds and are they participating in sex work, which is a legal act, or are they performing in prostitution? So that one simple determination is going to determine whether or not, he's guilty of that. And so with each of them, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge because, these are federal allegations, federal indictments. These are not state crimes. Obviously, through some of these acts, he's committed a number of state crimes. However, to get to the point of conspiracy, of racketeering, of sex trafficking, you have to go an extra length. And the defense is going to poke a lot of holes in this. They're going to say, this is his lifestyle. This is what he did. He may be a domestic abuser. He may be an assaulter. But this was not part of an enterprise. This is one guy that is somewhat lawless, but certainly not for the pattern of racketeering and forming the conspiracy.
And how about the video evidence? This jury has seen a number of videos. One is the interaction between Diddy and Cassie in the hotel by the elevator. The others, there have been a number of sexually explicit videos that the jury has seen. How is that incorporated into the prosecution's argument, and what will the defense say to rebuke it?
So video evidence is always very compelling because there's no question it's happening, it's in front of you. As long as it's not doctored or altered, it's very compelling evidence. But what the defense has to do is they have to take these videos and put them in a box and separate them, saying, hey, with Cassie Ventura, this was a horrible assault. Domestic violence, Diddy is a bad guy, but this was between two people in a relationship, having an argument that rose to a level none of us want to see, but to say that somehow racketeering is a far cry. They got to take each one of these videos and they have to separate them and don't deny them. Don't deny how bad they are. Don't even deny the criminality. but distinguish between the indictment allegations, and these other allegations that maybe he's guilty of, but he's not charged with.
This case is unique because it's Diddy, right? Because of his celebrity and his star power. But in your experience, have you ever seen a case like this? Is there any comparison?
There's really not. The only comparison I have maybe is to the Bill Cosby case, only because there was so many different purported victims and allegations, and you had this congregation of a number of people involved. But other than that, no. I mean, you have a situation where you've got a criminal trial going on now. You've got over 60 separate civil trials that he still has to deal with. And we may not have seen all of it. And then what's going to be interesting, Marnie, is assume that he's convicted. Now you're going to have the forfeiture side of this trial. They're going to try to take his corporate properties, corporate assets, and that's going to affect third parties. That's going to be a big deal as well.
Yeah, ripple effects. All right, Tre, thanks for your time on this Friday. Appreciate it.